Good evening, body of Christ. Excuse me. I actually took a mental health day today, was able to relax, but I felt this impression on me to read something. So a lot of people know that in the book of Corinthians, it talks about another book, right? So a lot of people talk about that there's a third book, and we assume because First Corinthians and Second Corinthians that there was this third book after. And again, this is for those of you that are open-minded. This is for those of you that know there are other books that didn't make it in. But I'm telling you, this Ethiopian Bible is got a lot of stuff in here. But there's a book, the first episode of Clement to the Corinthians. And I was like, wow, what if this is that book? But as I was reading it, excuse me, I just finished having dinner, excuse me. There is this chapter on envy and strife and how it overpowered the people in the Bible, even strong men and women of God. But this chapter is so powerful because it has Jesus, God, Abel and Cain, the Old Testament, the New Testament, all, all in it. And I want to read it to you. And I want you to hear this because it's beautiful how in these other books that people don't talk about or read about, there's so much in there that we miss. And I just want to really take this time out to read this and share it. The first episode of Clement to the Corinthians, chapter 3. For thus it is written, and in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought the first fruit of the ground and offered unto the Lord, and Abel he also brought of the first fruit of his flock and thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and unto his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very sorrowful, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou sorrowful? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou shalt offer aright, but not divide against, hast thou not sinned? And this is what he was saying, that sin lies at the door. Hold thy peace, unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Now he's talking about this time when Cain and Abel brought the offerings to the Lord. Now for a little information and education, when Adam and Eve sinned, the Lord sacrificed an animal and covered them with the skin of the animals. This was what God had did to show them this is what a sin offering is. This is what an offering consists of. It consists of, get this, the sacrifice of an animal and the shedding of the blood, right? So when Cain brought the fruit was something that was tilled from the ground. There was no real work into it, as in the sacrificial death and the blood that covered the sin. So get that part, right? Verse 4, and Cain said unto Abel his brother, let us go down into the field. And it came to pass, as they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him, slew him. Verse 5, you see, brethren, how envy and emulations wrought the death of his brother. He's telling the story. He's talking to the Corinthians. Can you see how this envy and this strife brought this division and brought death? And remember, the Corinthians were all over the place. This is why I thought this is very interesting, because this could be that book that is talked about in the Corinthians. That's the third one. It cannot be. I don't know. I just know that it's powerful. Let me finish on. Verse 6. It was this that caused Joseph to be persecuted even unto death, and to come into bondage. Envy forced Moses to flee from the face of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, when he heard his own countrymen asking him, "Who made thee a judge and a ruler over us? Wilt thou kill me as thou didst the Egyptian yesterday?" He went into Old Testament. The writing of this book went into the Old Testament from Genesis now to Exodus, and he's showing how envy and strife has been here from the very beginning, and how envy and strife is something that continuously divides people, crushes people, has people kill other people, have people mislike other people, because their envy and it's crushing their heart, and it's bringing strife and division. And this is happening still today, and even in the churches, like I spoke on last night, how there's this division amongst the body of Christ. Verse 7. Through envy, Aaron and Miriam were shut out of the camp from the rest of the congregation 7 days. That's when Aaron and Miriam came against Moses, because Moses was hearing from God, and Moses was in that place with God, and they felt like, who are you? Again, they had envy, they had strife. Emulation sent Dathan and Abiram quick into the grave, because they raised up a sedition against Moses, the servant of God. From this, David was not only hated of strangers, but was persecuted even by Saul, the king of Israel. Remember, Saul had envy and strife against David, because David was being lifted up, because Saul was no longer doing what David was doing. It said Saul killed 1,000, but David killed 10,000. So that envy and that strife and that jealousy came against Saul toward David. And this is what he's talking about in this book of Corinthians. This is awesome. This is in these books that people don't want to read, and they keep saying they don't exist. But look at the power of understanding envy and strife. This is today. A lot of people, good friends, relationships, business partners, churches, envy and strife and jealousy divides them. Verse 9. For this David was not only hated of strangers, I read that, verse 10, but not to insist upon ancient examples, let us come to those worthiest that have been nearest to us, and take the brave examples of our own age. Basically, we need to follow the examples that understanding this strife and this division and jealousy that's been here since Genesis chapter 3. And he's making it clear, like we're now coming out of the book of Exodus and seeing all this division and strife and envy that was coming against the people that were together. Verse 11. Through zeal and envy, the most faithful and righteous pillars of the church have been persecuted, even to the most grievous death. Let us set before our eyes the holy apostles. Peter, by unjust envy, underwent not one or two, but many sufferings, till at the last being he was martyred. He went to the place of glory that was due him. For the same cause did Paul in the like manner receive the reward of his patience. 7 times he was in bondage. He was whipped, was stoned. He preached both in the east and in the west, leaving behind him the glorious report of his faith. And so, having taught the whole world righteousness, and for that end travailed even to the utmost bounds of the west, he at last suffered martyrdom by the company of the governors, and departed out of this world, and went unto his holy place, being become a most eminent pattern of patience unto all ages. Remember when Paul said you got to run your race with patience, patiently endure, count it all joy when you fall into trials and temptation, knowing that your trying of your faith builds patience. And they're talking about all these folks now of how they endured all the sufferings, all the strife, everything that was coming against them, to be examples to us. Verse 17. No. 16. To this holy apostle were joined a very great number of others, who having through envy undergone in like manner many pains, torments, have left a glorious example for us. Verse 17. For this not only men but women have been persecuted, and having suffered very grievous and cruel punishments, have finished the course of their faith with firmness, and though weak in body, yet received a glorious reward. Verse 18. This has alienated the minds even of women from their husbands, and changed what was once said by our father Adam. This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. In a word, envy and strife have overturned whole cities and rooted out great nations from off the earth. This is in the Ethiopian Bible. This is the book written to the Corinthians. And I just thought that this was so powerful that I had to read it to you. And I was like, wow, there is so much in that message about strife, about division, about jealousy, about enduring, about persevering, and having our faith in the example of the Christians that were martyred, that were killed, that were stoned, and that were beaten before us. Letting us know we haven't even suffered to bloodshed yet, but even if we have to at some point, we got to count it all glory, because we will end up in that glory. And I really, really just wanted to share that with the body of Christ tonight. So God bless you. God bless you, Brother Robert. I pray that this really opened up your eyes to understanding that there are books that I have a whole library of books that people say, oh no, that's not in the canon, so that's not, but you need to understand, brothers and sisters, that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, all these folks got books that are now coming out, that have been coming out, that they chose not to put in, and there's reasons behind that, whether you want to believe it or not. This book that I just read in this one chapter has it has the Old Testament and the New Testament. And if you read it and followed me through this whole reading, you can see that this one chapter in this one book in the Ethiopian Bible was powerfully written, and it was perfectly explained. Just wanted to share that. God bless you all. Have a good evening.